The greatest glory lies not in never falling, but in rising every time you fall. These words perfectly describe the career of the fighter we are going to talk about today. If you ever feel like a failure, just remember Alistair Overeem, who in 2007 had a record of 2 wins and 5 losses in his last 7 fights, but a couple of years later became the champion of Strikeforce, Dream and the K1 Grand Prix. After that, he will taste defeat many more times and experience deep knockouts, but every time, like a phoenix, he will rise from the ashes and come back stronger. Throughout his long career, Alistair has collected a large number of interesting achievements, and one of them is 13 fights with the fighters from the CIS. Since Overeem is a citizen of the Netherlands, he started his MMA journey in European promotions, where he often faced fighters from the post-Soviet space. How these fights went and how they ended, you will see right now. October 1999, Tokyo. Alistair is 19 years old. This is his second professional fight and the first under the auspices of the legendary organization Rings. For those who don't know, this is where such MMA legends as Fyodor Emelianenko, Dan Henderson, Rodrigo Nogueira and many others began their journey. On that evening, the young Dutchman shared the ring with Yuri Kochkin, a native of Kyokushin Karate. Yuri is 17 years older than Overeem, but he doesn't have much advantage in experience. This is his third MMA fight. For the first 4 minutes, the fighters exchanged blows, and it was difficult to determine whose strike was stronger, as both athletes seemed evenly matched. Towards the end of the round, Reem took a hefty left hook and struggled slightly. Sensing blood, Kochkin pressed forward. He pushed him towards the ropes and showed him with punches from both hands, thereby seizing the initiative. The Russian fighter takes the opponent to the ground and quickly becomes apparent that Alistair has more skills in grappling. He swiftly took the back and it was close to choking out the fighter from Russia, but then the bell rang. Kochkin skillfully changed levels. As seen here, he would go for a low kick and then add a high kick a second later. This confused Alistair, so as soon as the clinch was initiated, he would take his opponent to the ground and continue hunting for a submission. Nevertheless, Yuri proved to be not so simple. In his youth, he practiced judo, so he still knew something in the ground game, at least how to defend himself. In the second round, Alistair was clearly struggling in the stand-up. Kochkin chased him to the corners and exploded with multi-strike series. The karatekas first sank into the Dutchman's flesh like deadly shurikens. It was classic Kyokushin bodywork. In this fight, Overeem was still very raw, but his versatility was already evident. Yes, he was being hit quite a bit in the stand-up, but thanks to his grappling skills, he managed to make the fight close, as every time it went to the ground, he escalated and threatened with submissions. After 2 rounds, Yuri Kochkin was this dynamic and competitive fight by majority decision of the judges. 6 months later, the fighters met again, and the fight went the distance once more, ending with a victory for the Russian, but this time by a split decision. Unfortunately, I was unable to find this fight online. February 2001. Rings. King of Kings 2000. Final tournament. In the opposite corner of the ring stood Vladimir Chinturia, a Georgian bronze medalist in the Olympics boxing who decided to try his land at MMA. The Dutchman knew exactly what to do with a one-dimensional boxer. A clinch at the first encounter and a takedown. Alistair found himself against the ropes and the referee returned to the fighters to the stand-up position. But nothing to worry about. Overeem once again took his opponent down, quickly moved to full mount and goes to a classic chokehold from the back. Vladimir was not prepared for this, and at the end, 1 minute 6 seconds mark, he tapped out in submission. Cinturia realized that with just boxing skills in mixed martial arts, he did not stand a chance and he never competed in MMA again. 2.5 months later, Overeem faced off against Russian fighter Stanislav Nushik in his homeland. Stas had a modest record of 4 wins and 3 losses and was representing the well-known Russian team Red Devil. Alistair straightforwardly went for a takedown, but Nushik evaded it and countered with a rapid series of strikes. The Dutchman kicked in with his knees, finding the clinch insufficient and attempted to take the fighter from St. Petersburg to the ground once again, but Nushik had enough skill to defend himself. A long-range cross found its mark and now it's Stas's turn to attempt a takedown. Reem closed the distance again with a straight left, entered the clinch and delivered a devastating knee strike, causing Nushik's leg to give out. The decisive blow broke the Russian's nose and buried his chance of victory. Knees were already one of Overeem's main weapons back then. Exactly 1 year later, Alistair returned to action, once again in Rotterdam, once again under the promotion 2H2H, and once again facing off against a Russian opponent from the Red Devil Club. Roman Zentsov's statistics included 4 wins and 4 losses. Yes, it was not impressive, but underestimating the guy was not wise. He could pose problems in stand-up. Alistair immediately comes up trumps. He tightly clinches Zentsov's neck and delivered a series of devastating knees. Next came a takedown from the clinch, and in an instant the Dutchman found himself in full mount position. Reem could have finished his opponents by simply striking from the top, but he chose a more humane way to win by applying an Americana submission hold. Fyodor Zemlyanenko's teammate surrendered, and Overeem added a 4th scalp of a CIS fighter to his collection. In April 2002, Overeem flew to St. Petersburg, where he was to fight under the auspices of the M1 organization. His opponent was Sergei Koznovsky, a young Russian heavyweight with a record of 4 wins and 4 losses. Sergei showed decent skills in stand-up, landing a couple of solid punches right at the beginning of the fight. The Dutchman immediately engaged in a clinch, attempting to take his opponent down. Not only did Koznovsky fend off all of Alistair's exertions, but also he was extremely close to dropping him. However, Overeem managed to secure top position. A low kick to a supporting leg brought the Russian to the canvas. Overeem instantly transitioned to full mount, applying an armbar, forcing Sergei to signal submission. At the end of the same year, Overeem headed to Tokyo for his second fight in the Pride promotion. Japanese matchmakers paired him with 4-time Wushu Sanda world champion Bazigid Ataev, who had a win streak of 13 MMA victories behind him. The Dagestani fighter trained at the renowned 5 Directions martial arts school. For those who don't know, this martial arts school make real ninjas out of ordinary people. Interestingly, Zabit Magomed also hails from there. It was Dutch kickboxing against Dagestani Wushu Sanda, promising an intriguing matchup. Bazigid pushed Overeem towards the ropes, but Overeem reacted lightning fast with a sharp left uppercut and a straight right. Years later, Bazigid would compare his punches to whip strikes in an interview. Overeem aimed to acquaint his opponent with his trademark knees, but Bazigid had an effective counter, a classic hip throw. Bazigit controlled the fight for 2.5 minutes and even managed to reach guard position at the one point, but could not inflict any significant damage on the Dutchman. He preferred causing damage in stand-up, which he demonstrated vividly once they were back on their feet. A spinning strike from the Buynaksk region sent Overeem to the canvas. Bazigit was throwing spinning strikes long before it became mainstream. Overeem quickly recovered and without hesitation he began to pull the Dagestani ninja into the ground. It was a wise decision as he was somewhat more skillful on the ground than his vis-a-vis. Reem kept Bazigit on the bottom for the rest of the round, occasionally causing him discomfort with punches and submission attempts. Alistair climbs into full mount but doesn't manage to reap any dividends from it. Then the 10-minute mark has come to an end. In the second round, Overeem effortlessly performed another takedown and reached top position much faster this time. However, despite being in control, he could not finish the Russian fighter from the top position.
Yeah.
Atayev now on the ground once again.
The referee got tired of watching the fuss and stood the fighters up. Alistair noticed that the wrestling has drained Bazigit's energy and confidently launched knee strikes at him. In the final seconds of the round, one of these knees pierced Bazigit's spleen, folding him in half.
Fight's over! Fight's over! Fight's over! Whoa! Yo!
Overeem secured his 10th consecutive stoppage victory, handing Atayev his first career loss. June 2005, Tokyo. In the quarterfinals of the Pride Middleweight Grand Prix, Overeem faced off against one of the most formidable knockout artists in MMA history, Igor Vovchanchin. The Ukrainian puncher was far more experienced than Alistair, boasting 65 fights with 56 victories to his name. Overeem in turn had a significant advantage in size, towering over his opponent by 20 centimeters and outreaching him by a whopping 30 centimeters. Naturally, for a Yankee Dutchman, this was reason enough to impose a tight clinch right from the start. An attempt at hip throw, but after dealing with Atayev, Reem already had immunity to his move. All of Vovchanin's attention is focused on avoiding the charged knee, the perfect time for a sudden takedown. Let's pause here for a moment to delve deeper, because this takedown was Alistair's crown jewel, one he successfully employed throughout his career. You see, here is its main secret. The opponent has already taken a couple of unpleasant knees and has no desire to take another. To defend himself, he lifts his leg, leaving himself vulnerable because he's standing on one support point. Alistair doesn't even need to land a full strike. It's enough for him to simply threaten, raise his knee, which the opponent is likely to react reflexively to, staying on one leg, allowing Reem to trip him up. Igor manages to get back to his feet but faces another, even more serious problem. His neck is caught in a guillotine choke from which he can't escape. At that time, this choke was one of Overeem's favorites in his arsenal, and he had 8 MMA victories using it. Additionally, in January of the same year, Reem won the European ADCC, a prestigious grappling tournament, finishing each opponent with a guillotine choke. Eight months later, Alistair had his first fight in the heavyweight division. The man who welcomed him to the new category was 27-year-old Sergei Haritonov.
Yeah, Sergey, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Alistair, я тебя не боюсь.
By that time, the Russian had fought in 9 bouts in the Japanese promotion, losing only to one fighter, the legendary Big Knock. Sergei already had an impressive portfolio. He had defeated Mario Rua, Pedro Rizzo, Sammy Shields and Fabricio Verdum. Moreover, out of all these fighters, only the latter managed to give him the paratrooper a worthy resistance and withstand until the final bell. The pragmatic Dutchman understood the risks of facing the silver medalist of the Russian Boxing Championship, so a takedown from his side was only a matter of time. A distracting jab and a penetration stab, eternal classic against boxers. Reem takes side control and Sergei awaits 5 minutes of pain and despair. Overeem pokes the Russian spleen with sharp elbows, but this is nothing compared to the damage his head will soon endure. Hellish knees, together with dense hammer fists, turn the face of Russian fighter into a punching bag.
Bring that arm down. Make sure that Harry.
Sergei lies like a dead weight, puzzling his cornermen. They keep urging him to get up, but for some reason he cannot get out of this critical position.
Pride heavyweight tournament. So
In 5 minutes, the paratrooper absorbed 122 unanswered strikes, making this fight one of the most one-sided in Pride history. Immediately after the fight, it was revealed that Haritonov's passivity was due to a serious shoulder injury he sustained during the takedown. Seeing the subsequent footage, you will roughly understand how paralyzing the pain was that Haritonov had to face in this bout.
Я плечо просто порвал. А! 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 Да у меня вообще все, там я прям на секунде, на первой, на самой секунде. Надо было сразу постучать. Я хотел постучать.
Да что ты сразу-то, блин, терпел, да?
Да я хотел постучать, ну блин, я думаю, блин, может ошибется просто. Ну нет, 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 нет. Нет, нет.
A year and a half later, fans witnessed a rematch that, as cliché as it may sound, set everything right. Overeem started quite confidently. He looked faster than the Russian, landed his right hand well and almost didn't take any in return. In the second half of the round, Haritonov began to close the distance, imposing exchanges on his opponent at close and mid-range. Alistair clearly felt uncomfortable, but never liked head-on collisions. He tried to find success in the clinch, but it didn't work out too well. In the last minute of the round, Sergei pressed his opponent against the cage and began to break through his solid defense with armor-piercing shots. Overeem was literally hanging on, but Sergei's lethal right hand quickly caught up with him. That evening, Reem fully felt the difference between an injured Haritonov and a healthy one. Moving forward 9 years. May 2016, UFC Fight Night 87 in Rotterdam. Alistair enters on a streak of 3 impressive wins and holds the 3rd spot in the rankings. To secure a title shot, he must overcome the final obstacle in the form of ex-UFC champion Andrei Arlovsky. The Belarusian was in a good shape and ranked among the top 5 heavyweights, having lost only to Stipe Miocic in his last 7 fights. Both fighters trained at Jackson Wink, but they were not buddies.
Ты все такой типок мерзопакостный.
The bout started with a bolt, prolonged sprint from Arlovsky. However, Alistair's clinch work saved him. The Dutchman spent the first round on a calm note, moving a lot and waiting. Among the successful moments were a sniper middle kick, a couple of knees in the clinch, and a takedown towards the end of the round. In the second round, there were several more hard-hitting middle kicks, after which came the climax. Reem changed his stance and caught his opponent off guard with a crane kick. Andrei remained on his feet, but a precise left hook immediately corrected this oversight. Crafty Alistair fed his opponent body kicks throughout the fight, and when his leg twitched once again, the Belarusian reflexively dropped his hands. November 2018, UFC Fight Night 141 in Beijing. After suffering 2 devastating losses to Francis Ngannou and Curtis Blades, the organization decided to test Overeem's mettle by arranging a meeting with the promising 26-year-old from Rostov, Sergey Pavlovich. The former Fight Nights champion boasted an impeccable record of 12-0, knockout punch and phenomenal anthropometric data. His reach spanned 213 centimeters, placing him behind only John Jones and Stefan Struve in this metric. There is no denying that Pavlovich showed great promise, but would he have the skills and experience to compete with a seasoned veteran like Reem? The bookmakers thought so. Pavlovich entered the fight as the favorite. After 2 knockout losses, few believed that Overeem would return back to the winning track. Most fans were convinced that the Rostov knockout artist would surely find his way to the Dutchman's glass chin. Visually, Overeem appeared to be in peak form, an aging veteran with the physique of a young athlete. In the opening minute, Pavlovich landed a powerful right hand. Overeem took the blow stoically, but had no desire to continue trading with him. He feigned a takedown and moved into the clinch, a clever move. Dealing with Sergey, of course, was no easy task. He was tough to control against the cage and threatened with a takedown. Nevertheless, Overeem managed to land a couple of knees. Excellent connection. He showed a takedown and threw a heavy overhand. Oops, and here comes the same takedown from the clinch. Years go by, but it still works. With less a minute left in the round, Overeem positioned himself on top and began a punishing ground and pound assault, prompting the referee to intervene. It was one of the most brutal ground and pound episodes I have ever seen. Overeem halted a string of frustrating losses, casually handed Pavlovich his first defeat, and thus made it clear to the entire division that retirement was not yet in his plans. In the next match, which took place in St. Petersburg, Alistair faced another Russian fighter, but this time it was not a young prospect, but a 41-year-old veteran, Alexei Oleinik. Despite his recent victories over Junior Albini and Mark Hunt, most experts and fans unanimously agreed that Oleinik was not on Overeem's level. It did not take even 10 seconds for Uncle Lusha to execute his trademark move and take Alistair to the ground. An Ezekiel choke attempt followed shortly after, but such tricks would not work with the skilled Dutchman. Well, time to test luck standing up. Oleinik closed the distance with a jab and narrowly avoided the punishing knee strike. Then, unexpectedly, a powerful overhand right from Oleinik almost knocked Alistair's cap off his teeth. Alexei went for a finish, unleashing a series of crude yet powerful punches. He then attempted a takedown, but the horse easily defended. Oleinik had a habit of leaning forward when striking, which Reem noticed and constantly tried to counter with his knees. It was dangerous, but the boa constrictor pressed on, relentlessly pounding Alistair's body. Alexei did not hold back and pressed forward, persistently attempting to break through Overeem's defense. Standing hammer fists, Artem Lobov approves. Alistair waited for Oleinik to slow down and then unleashed his devastating knees. However, Uncle Lusha refused to give up, pressing Alistair against the cage and hammering his head as if it were a noisy neighbor's door past 11 p.m. With a minute left in the fight, they were clinched up and the boa constrictor attacked the body, while Overeem responded with lethal knees to the head. Needless to say, it proved to be much more effective. Alexei fell and Alistair calmly finished him off, adding another victory over a CIS fighter to his record. Although Oleinik landed more strikes, quality beat quantity. You know, coming to someone else's territory and finishing a local fighter in front of his compatriots is a special kind of pleasure. The post-fight examination revealed that one of Overeem's knees had broken Oleinik's rib. It makes it more interesting knowing that it was not the first time. They once trained together at American Top Team, and during sparring, the Dutchman broke 2 of the Russian fighter's ribs with the same knee strike. On February 6, 2021, Alistair faced Alexander Volkov in the main event of UFC Fight Night 184. Overeem was coming off 2 consecutive stoppage victories over Walt Harris and Augusto Sakai and was ranked 5th in the division. Nevertheless, few believed he would be able to defeat the young Drago. The match began with a solid inside low kick from Alexander, after which Overeem pressed against the cage and absorbed a series of head strikes. Volkov immediately took control and constantly pressured his opponent against the cage, peppering him with low kicks and threatening with hand strikes. Overeem attempted several powerful overhands, but they lacked precision.
How often do we see this?
However, this uppercut from the lead hand found its mark perfectly. He couldn't impose the clinch or grappling on his opponent because Volkov had significantly increased his physical strength in preparation for this fight. With 2 minutes left in the round, Overeem pressed forward but ran into a shove and ended up on the canvas. Volkov didn't let off-balance opponent get up and started to rain down strikes from the top. Overeem got back up but looked disoriented, and with his back against the cage, he absorbed several heavy strikes. The ending was particularly one-sided, with Volkov landing a series of stiff punches almost unanswered.
To one side, it's not typical Volkov, it looks more fundamental.
Starting to split the guard here. Staying busy.
Unloading.
In the second round, Alexander stung Overeem with a power jab and shortly after followed up with the right hand.
Volkov's been having to deal on him his whole career, and now he doesn't have to deal with seeing him let his hands go. And
This is the best that we've seen done. Takedowns in these fights.
After taking a precise 1-2, Overeem danced away.
Wobbles him with the...
Then came a right to the body followed by a left hook, forcing Overeem to flee.
it's about over here. I mean, he's got a big...
At one point, it seemed like he had recovered and even attempted to shoot for a takedown, but it was unsuccessful. With 3 minutes left in the round, Volkov sealed the deal with a straight right followed by a left hook.
When Volkov hurts you.
That's it.
Causing Overeem to drop to all fours. The Dutchman remained conscious. He fell not because he was knocked out, but because he could not bear the pain. Summing up, in his 21-year MMA career, Overeem fought 13 times against fighters from the CIS region, winning 10 of them. Only 3 fighters, Yuri Kochkin, Sergey Haritonov and Alexander Volkov, managed to defeat him. If you enjoyed watching, please support the channel by subscribing and liking the video, as it is crucial for the channel's development. Thank you.